Oh, I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like you're showing up and nothing's really happening? That you feel like people you think aren't paying attention and no one's making decisions because of you, that you feel like you're kind of out there just sharing and nobody is paying a bit of attention? Hi, I'm Leslie, and welcome to another episode of the Why Not Today podcast. And we're going to talk about the starfish and talk about how that relates to business. So, most oftentimes, you really don't see most of the impact you make. And really, truly, no feedback really does not mean no results. So, if you're watching on YouTube or watching on the Facebook group, you're seeing that I have a starfish necklace on and I wear them often. And pretty much every day I have a starfish on. I have earrings, I have necklaces, and believe it or not, you can actually get them on my website. So, do you know the story of the starfish? I share this all the time, but there was a guy walking down the beach, picking up starfish, throwing them in the ocean. And a man walked up behind him. He said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I am saving the starfish." And he's like, "How can you possibly make a difference? There's thousands on this beach." And he responded, he goes, picked one up, threw it in the ocean, says, "I made a difference in that." And so I really try to run my life and my business with starfish as my example. And that's why I wear it. That's why I give it as gifts. That's why you can get it on my website, because I just feel like it's so important that you never know whose life you're making a difference. That we're doing all the things, we're showing up, we're being good people, we're posting on social media, just doing all the things, showing up in life. And you never know who is watching. You never know who that one person is paying attention to you and what you're doing. And then on the flip side, you never know who that one person you're going to meet is going to introduce you to the person you really need to meet. And it could be many degrees deep of connections, like this person introduced you to this person, blah, 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 blah. I was having a discussion today with somebody about networking, and I host a networking luncheon, quote unquote networking. And it's not your traditional give an elevator speech. I really feel like networking should be know people, building those connections, and just handing cards and not just transaction. And maybe I'm alone on this, but I really feel like getting to know people on a deeper level, when you build that know, like, and trust, and there's going to be a podcast episode on that as well, I promise you. But getting to know people that you trust and you're willing to give them business and send their name to somebody, send a referral, because you never know who's going to be asking and who's going to be watching. And so I really feel strong about, building connections, and you just never know who's watching and who's making a difference, whose life you're making a difference, and also who you're going to meet that's going to be that person that's going to lead you to the person that's going to be the amazing connection that you need. So obviously, if you're listening to this, I have a podcast, and we just started our 5th year if you're listening to it in real time. And several years ago, probably season 1, season 2, I saw my sister and one of her coworkers, and my sister introduced me to her coworker. She's like, "Oh my goodness, you're the one that has a podcast." And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And my sister Alicia shared it with her coworker, and she said, "I listened to every episode driving to and from work." And she was commuting like an hour and a half every day to and from work. And she goes, "You, by asking the question, why not today, encouraged me to look for another job that is closer to home." And she was able to find another job, quit her job, and um, not have to commute every day. And that was just one person paying attention. You just never know who's listening, who's watching. And I could tell you story after story. So, we're posting content, we're doing a podcast, we're talking to people, we're showing up. And I think I talk a lot about consistency, and it's consistently showing up. And I just didn't record one episode of this podcast. It's getting close to 200 now. And it's that consistency. It's never quitting. It's consistently doing it. And you never know who's watching. Another story that relates to my Mary Kay business, and I often talk about why not today moments. And this is when you remember where you were, what you're doing that may make a life difference in you. So, and I always taught, be prepared. You never know. Learn your skill, learn what you're doing, be able to be prepared if someone calls, and they want you to get together. So honestly, this was years ago. And I still remember where I was. I was standing at the desk at the Reston Chamber, and this woman, Pamela Leach, came up to me, who was super sharp, almost, if I had have to admit it, a little intimidating. And she said, I know you sell Mary Kay, and one day I'd love to try some products. I'm like, okay. But I was a little intimidated and I didn't follow up very quickly. Well, then one holiday weekend, I'll never forget it, she called me on a Saturday morning and said, my mom's having some girlfriends over. Would you want to come over and do a Mary Kay party? And I'm like, yes. One, I was prepared. So it was a holiday weekend. I didn't have anything going on. I could have said, you know what, I'm not ready, or it's too short a notice. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Well, as I was in the appointment, there was one woman there, literally arms crossed, like the least likely to buy anything. And she's purchased a skincare set. And from there, she then, a few months later, I got a call from her. She referred me to one of her coworkers, and her coworker was turning 30 and it's like, I need skincare. So I got together with a coworker, and again, not an opportune time, but we made it work. It happened to be Halloween. I was trick-or-treating with my niece's nephew, so I went afterwards. And we did a facial. Her roommate was supposed to be there, but she couldn't make it. But she did leave an order. So then I did another appointment with her and her roommate, and her roommate had used Mary Kay for years and lost her consultant. And, her consultant never offered to talk to her about the career opportunity. And so I talked to Esther. I'm like, you ever thought about becoming a consultant? You use the products, your best friend uses it, or your roommate. And so she signed up to be a Mary Kay consultant. She then recruited her best friend who lived in Connecticut, who recruited a couple other people, including somebody that then moved to New Mexico. And from that one incidental, slight comment that I acted on with Pamela, I was able to add to my team and add it to my team. And I couldn't even tell you how many years ago that was to now. I looked after that incident or appointment, like a year later, within 6 months, myself and my team had sold over $300,000 worth of Mary Kay from that one appointment. Now, that was years ago, and I couldn't even tell you how much it's added since then. Honestly, I still have people on my team from that original appointment now. Yeah, Esther's still on my team. And then from there, other people. So you just never know where that one lead is going to lead you. And talking to that one person and being kind to that one person. I was just listening to a podcast. Mel Robin had somebody on this week that talked about being lucky. And, you can manifest your luck by being out there. One of my mentors, and I've shared this on the podcast many times, said, things don't fall in your lap unless your lap's out there. And so what can you do to have your lap out there, quote unquote, to get exposure, to meet people, to let people know what you're doing? Now, these days, if you're listening to this in real time, this is April of 2026, and social media is a big thing. There's lots of different places to share on social media. And it's kind of one of those things, I don't know about you, but I post thing and then it's crickets. I put my podcast out there and I feel like nobody's watching. And you start doing it and then nobody comments, there's no likes, no visible growth. And you just never know who is watching, as I said. And this is building that know, like, and trust, that people are seeing your face. They're seeing you show up. They're seeing you show up not perfect, and your makeup's not right. You're out walking the dog, but they're showing up. They see you showing up, and we don't have to be perfect to show up. And so when you consistently show up, the reality is people are watching you quietly. Anybody listening, watching, are you stalking anybody? Are you watching somebody? You never comment, you never like, but you're paying attention. They're deciding privately if they want to keep following you or not. And if they look at one of your things, then your stuff starts popping up a little later. And you never know when they're going to act later. I had somebody that I met 14 years now ago on a boat on a lake, and hadn't heard from her. And then 13 years later, she reached out to me and is a customer now. So you just never know. And the only way she knew what I was doing is following me on Facebook. So really, stop asking, is it working? And start asking, who might need this today? So when I record a podcast episode, or when I do a workshop or post content, I think about a person that really could use what I'm sharing. as I'm recording this, I'm thinking about some of the people that came to my luncheon the other day, and they came in, two people in particular. And if you're listening to this, I apologize, I'm calling you out on this, but they came in and they immediately sat down, and there could have been something else going on. I know one person had some allergies, but they immediately sat down by themselves in a table, and they didn't interact with anybody. And so, are you interacting? Is your lap out there? Are you talking to people? Are people getting to know you? Are you building that know, like, and trust? Like, it's really easy to go to an event and hang out with your friends, but are you getting uncomfortable and talking to other people? So think about, who might need what you're sharing. You just never know. You can make a difference in one person's life. And so that's just so important. So think about the starfish when you're doing something. Think about, one person may be paying attention. I had somebody at my luncheon, and she's been on my podcast several times, Sam Horn, who's an author. And she always talks about writing a book, and you might write it for just one person. And you just never know whose life you can affect and you can change one person. And then the ripple effect just happens. So my recommendation to you, and what I encourage you to do, is post anyway, even if you don't think anybody's watching. Share anyway, even if you don't think anybody's paying attention. Reach out anyway. I often think, or when I think of somebody, often I will shoot a text or an email. I did it with my Mary Kay business. I did not use any fancy tracking. I literally would just text somebody. And if they popped in my head, and probably 99% of the time, they're like, oh my goodness, how did you know I'm out of whatever? I was thinking about you. Do you ever have that friend that's like heavy on your heart, and you reach out and like, I really needed that today? Like, reach out anyway, and then follow up anyway. If you're out networking, if you're out talking to people, if you're posting things and people are commenting, please respond back. And it can just be a quick little like. I know sometimes it gets overwhelming, I know for me, but follow up anyway. The person that follows up, it doesn't happen that often. And what can you do to make the little and then some? It's going to be another podcast episode on the book, Unreasonable Hospitality, if you haven't read it yet. But do you write thank you notes? Literally, I'm sitting on my desk. If you're watching me, why not today? Thank you note. I have two of them sitting here ready to write. And so, putting something in the mail, people don't get mail anymore. Like, follow up, send a text, thank people. You will be memorable. And then those are the people that are going to refer you to somebody else, or you're making a difference. And so we don't need everybody. Yes, there's influencers that have millions of people following them. I don't want to be that person, but I want to be the person that I'm touching one life and then another life. So you don't need everyone. You just need one, and you don't know who it's going to be yet. So just keep showing up, keep asking, and reach out to just one person a day. If you listen to this, reach out to me. Let me know you listened to it and watched it and it made a difference. If you want a starfish, you can get them on my website at whynottodaymovement.com. And you know what? Share this episode with a friend. Like it, tag it, repost it, whatever you can do. Let's spread the word, one person at a time, one starfish at a time. And let's make a difference. Let's start a wave, a ripple effect of making a difference and impacting others' lives. I mean, we are in business and we're doing life, hopefully to impact other people's lives. And that's where the joy comes and the difference. So thanks again for listening to another episode of Why Not Today. And if you want to know anything about the Why Not Today, the Inner Circle, my workshops, the luncheons, if you're local to me in Northern Virginia, then check it all out at whynottodaymovement.com. And if you're watching live, you can see my puppy dog in the background. She's like, I want to go for a walk. So I'm going to wrap it up now. Again, as I always end, and ask, why not today? You never know what will happen. All right, bye.